We're all put in tough situations sometimes. Lose our job, get broken up with, lose somebody in an even more significant way. Sometimes these things happen to us, sometimes something that we did, and we suffer the consequences of it. In any case, we always play some kind of role, even if we're just in the situation, we were born into the situation. Or something changed with forces outside of our direct control. Somebody breaks up with you out of the blue, or you lose your job out of the blue. Somebody passes away out of the blue. An accident happens. Sometimes we don't have direct control over something difficult that happens to us, but we are faced with addressing that difficult situation. It can be something smaller, like a bad grade, or being stressed about taking a qualifying exam, or anything. Or maybe it's something that we've been struggling with for several years. Maybe it's a thought that we just can't get over. Maybe it's a person we can't get over. And it's not like everything in our life has to have meaning. I fundamentally believe that everything does not happen for a reason. And I firmly believe this because I was listening to a podcast of one of my favorite YouTubers one time, and I had watched him for years before one day I heard him talk about the passing of his brother due to cancer, and he said that there was no reason that should have happened. It just happened. And ever since that moment, I stood by that, and I still do. Always open to other sides of that coin. That's the side that I stand on after hearing that story. So I'm not here to say that everything has to have an explanation. I find that looking back on my life, the pieces do to go together. One thing leads to another. We can piece it together and make the narrative of our lives, and I think that's important. We create our own story, our own narrative of who we are and our life. So retrospectively, we can put the pieces together and make some kind of sense of everything we're going on. But I don't think everything has to happen for a reason. At the end of the day, we all go through really, really difficult things. And the scale of magnitude that's hard for one person is going to be a breeze for somebody else, and vice versa. Some things that I struggle with, some people would probably think this other situation is way worse. I 100% acknowledge that. And it's true. It's true. And some things that other people go through that I think are nothing are the world to that person. It's plain as day when you look at children. They get so upset over what to us as adults seems like the smallest things. I still have a memory of getting so upset over a little yellow toy car. And what doesn't change is that really tough feeling, that really hard feeling. The situations differ from person to person in points in our lives, but that really tough feeling, that prevails, that we can always feel. What I've learned and what I believe at this point in my life and my lived experience so far to be an absolute truth is no matter the situation, the very least we can get is empathy. Empathy for others going through a similar situation. Empathy for ourselves. We get an understanding of that difficult thing. And I think what we can do with that, after a grieving period, allow yourself to have a grieving period. After that grieving period, or even during it, to help you get through it, I think what we can do is we can turn that difficulty into some help for somebody else. And at the very least, even if we don't act on it, there's no obligation to act on it or try to help everybody in the world. But you can at least understand, even if it's just for yourself, where somebody else might be coming from, what they are struggling with. If you feel compelled to, you can help somebody else in the same situation. As I've been making these episodes, it's got me thinking of what the purpose is of these episodes. For me, it helps me to process things that happen in my life, to frame them in ways that in things that I've learned, both to help myself and to help, well, really, I do all this for my future kids. What has provided me some comfort in the thought patterns that I've struggled with the most is, at least if nothing else, if I never get over this thing, at the very least, I have an understanding for if my future child is going through a similar thing or has similar thoughts, and then extend that beyond my family, just another person. It's as though you understand another facet of human life. Sometimes those facets that we come to understand are hard, but it is part of the experience. It is part of the experience of being human. And I saw this quote, and it was a meme to quote, like it was a joke, and I at first was saying it as a joke, but I started thinking, and it actually deeply resonated with me, and it's everything's a win when the goal is to experience. Everything's a win when the goal is to experience. And so feel the hard emotion. Feel it. I am 100% for feeling it, going through it. When you're in a place to think about it in this way, as at the end of the day, I think that's why I really think it's an absolute, no matter what it is. At the end, it's a layer of the human existence that you're experiencing. And if it's really tough, I'm sorry that you're going through it. I'm sorry, especially if it was outside of your direct control and it happened to you. I'm sorry that you're going through it, truly. I truly am. And when you're in a place to think about it in this way, you're living some part of the human experience. And if there's ever a point in your life that you're ready for it and you want to, it's okay if that moment ever comes, but if you are, and you can turn that into something good, whether that's good for yourself, whether that's good for somebody else, just sharing your pain, sharing what you learned through that is a way to turn even the worst things in the world into something positive. And one of my pillars of life is the power of reframing. And an idea for you of something good that can come from anything is at least empathy. Whether or not you act on it, whether or not you do anything, sometimes things are too painful to act on. Sometimes they need to be shut out for a long time. That's so valid. But at least for yourself, you can have empathy for somebody else going through that situation. And I want to read you another quote from Evy Poumpouras. She's a former Secret Service agent. She's protected several presidents and their family members, and she's awesome, and I recommend her book, Becoming Bulletproof. She survived 9/11. She was up against the tower as it was falling. This woman is incredible. Highly recommend her. Definitely an inspiration for me. She says, "You don't have to heal to be resilient. You don't have to heal to be resilient." This struck a chord with me. And especially when it comes from someone like that, who has gone through objectively one of the most traumatic events in U.S. history, in world history. And I know there's people that go through such more traumatic events than I have in my life. I know people that are going through much more traumatic events right now than I have. It does break my heart because I hope that they can be resilient, but I don't blame them for a single second if they can't. I would only hope that they can. And in those worst of the worst situations, sometimes it's enough to just survive through it and put it behind them as much as they can and not spiral because of the bad situation that they're in and that they had no direct control over getting into. For those of us in less extreme situations, maybe we do have some control over it or something not as traumatic. Maybe we can try to turn our pain and our hard times around into helping other people and having empathy for people. What getting empathy for your own hard situations does is you can remove, just like I said earlier, you can remove the actual event and you can isolate the feeling. You can isolate the feeling of somebody feeling lost, abandoned. Those feelings are the same. It's the situation that gives us those feelings that's different. But what you can do is you just recognize that a person is hurting in their own way, their own circumstance. What you can see in that person is that they're hurting and you can empathize. You don't have to take on their hard life circumstance. You don't have to give them a solution for what they're going through. At the end of the day, people need empathy. I'm one of the most optimistic people I know. And when I'm in the thick of a hard time, even I don't need to be told how it can be turned around. Sometimes we just need to sit in it with people and not be afraid of their hard times and their hard feelings, and we just need to sit in it with them. And at the end of the day, that's what empathy is. It's feeling what that other person is feeling with them. I think that's what we can give people sometimes. So, this was a little bit of a heavier episode. Life has ups and downs. Life is just an endless sine wave. What you can know is when it's down, you can find comfort in knowing that it's going to go up again. And then when you're at the +1 of a normalized sine wave, you have to know that it's going to go down. So you just appreciate those times when you're up a little bit more.